it's going to take a while. Yeah. And it's just that trust, allow yourself self-care, allow yourself to take a walk, allow yourself to breathe, enjoy things, listen to the birds, all the things that we don't do. We get so caught up in the day-to-day and the busyness of our life. And if we just, take a step back and breathe.
Wow, we would have never believed this. We're on Spotify, we're on Apple, we're on Google. Go out there and listen to us. So we're excited about it. We're glad you're excited about it too.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Lunch Break. So glad to have you here. I'm here today, absent Tom, but we're doing some new stuff. As you guys know, as you guys have seen, we're trying to get more women involved. Abby's been on our team for several months now. She's stepping up to be a new host, and we have Darla down from Turlock,
California,
in our studio. So we're excited to have you here. It's really cool, and you're on your way to a speaking engagement, right?
Yes.
Best U Expo. So she's doing that. We'll talk about that a little bit and kind of get to know you, but. Darla's been in life coaching and a believer, like probably a lot of you guys watching this show and us here at 511. But that's a big part of your life, right?
Absolutely.
Big part of what you do is in your life coaching and how you walk people through that.
Yes.
But let's kind of go through that, like where you're at now and how you went through that transition from being a financial advisor into that, and then we'll get into the Best U Expo as well.
Okay. So yes, I was a financial advisor for many years, and that was a wonderful career for me. Mm-hmm. And yet at the same time, my father was passing away. And during that time of him passing away, I actually spent a lot of time right here in Bakersfield and was with him a lot during the last 6 months of his life. And so it was during that time I kind of stepped back. The economy back in 2000, if you remember, 2009, 10, 11, those were difficult years for the financial advisory business. And I really wanted to take a step back and see, what's really important to me. Mm-hmm. And so I got to spend those last 6 months of my life, or my dad's life, with him. And he often quoted scripture to me.
That's awesome.
Yes, I was very privileged.
So he knew where he was going.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Cool. So what he would often quote was Philippians 4, verse 8. And basically what it says is whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are honest, and it goes through all that. And at the very end, it says, think on those things. And so, of course, when you lose someone, there's a lot of grief.
Yeah.
And there were days that were really difficult for me. And I would quote that verse to myself over and over and over again. And I'd say, think on those things. And some days I'd get mad at myself, like, think on those things, Mm-hmm. And yet just that was absolutely the kind of the catalyst to transition my life from where I was to where I am today. And so that's when I thought, I need to go back to school and really figure out who I want to be. And I have an extremely supportive husband.
That's amazing.
Yes.
It's always great to have.
Always good to have, yes. And so he was really supportive. I went back to school. I got certified in life and health coaching. And I've been doing that now for going on, 8 years.
Yeah. Well, and in that, right, you said health coaching. I imagine there's a lot of mental health in there, right?
Absolutely.
Right. And you shared with me a story about that just when we talked the other day, right, about how someone was trying to lose weight, and it was more of a mental block, a mental health issue. And it is really interesting that has been coming up a lot in just my world, but just I think in general in society, it's not that it's a new thing, right? It's more that it's what's the word?
Prevalent.
Yeah, or more awareness.
More awareness,
right?
Yes.
Because it's been prevalent since our parents were kids, right?
Right.
But people are more accepting of the fact, this does exist. Let's actually do something about it. Which I know, Abby, you've seen that as well, right? And like just the help is there, right? Which is a large part of what you do, right? Is you help people with that.
Yes. So what's interesting is my business went from mostly health coaching, helping women to lose weight, that type of thing, to transitioning really towards helping people with stress and anxiety. There's a lot of that going on.
There is.
A lot of stress and anxiety going on. And helping them to understand that if they embrace what I refer to as healthy habits, that they can know peace and calm in their life.
So what are those healthy habits?
So number one for me on healthy habits is before we can learn to drink our water, right? Before we can drink our water, before we can learn to eat healthy, we have to really look within ourselves. And that would include, first and foremost in my heart, is of course putting God first in our life. And so I teach that and the importance of that. I teach the importance of spending time with God every single day, importance of the power of the words that we speak. There's so much power in that. I'll actually be speaking on that at the Best You Expo.
That's amazing. I'm a big stickler for language and words too. Like you can ask anybody on my team. I'm like, no, let's say it exactly like this. And I don't know. It's just I was raised by a grandma. Well, not completely raised, but largely involved in my life. A grandmother that was an English teacher.
Oh wow.
So I'm very particular. No, don't say it like that. Say it like this because. And we have clients we work with, right? So like, as a CEO of a company, like. They stick on certain words, right? So words have a lot of power. And the Bible says that the words have power.
Oh, it's all over the Bible. Absolutely. It's all over the Bible. There's so much power. And we often hear words like never, always.
Yeah.
And I really, really work hard on making sure those aren't in my vocabulary.
That was something my dad drilled into me from a young age is you don't say those words, never and always. And even like in my house, there's certain words that like can't.
Can't?
That's not a word. Are we allowed to say can't? No. My daughter's sitting over here, so I decided to ask her a question.
Another really powerful word is the word but, B-U-T, right? Like it's like when someone says, well, I love you, but you've just like nixed out what you just said. And so you'll hear me, I'll pause and I'll say, and. I love you and you're an amazing child. I'll love you and could you help me do the dishes? Whatever it is. Instead of saying, I love you, but why are you doing that? You've just you just created the person that you're saying that to a question of, wait, she loves me, but it's conditional.
Right.
And we don't want to put conditions on people.
Yeah. It's funny, I had a conversation about that recently with somebody, and it may have been you, right? But I remembered it being someone else that was saying, a lot of times you can take that but part and put it at the beginning and it's better.
Oh, no, that wasn't me. That's a good idea.
Yeah. So like, I have this challenge, but I love you.
I like that.
Yeah.
That is a good one.
So it's giving the power to the I love you, not the power to the negative.
I really like that. Thanks for sharing that. That's good. Yes.
So you're, how long have you been doing the life coaching thing?
Going on 8 years.
So that's a while. Yeah.
Yes.
That's amazing.
And it hasn't always been easy. with any career change, it takes time to create clients and it takes time to get your name out there and consistency and just working on it. But I follow my heart because there's days when I have been like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? And yet I really know that this is what God's called me to do. And that's why I just keep moving forward one day at a time.
So what's been the key to that success in that career as you're building and rebuilding from scratch, basically, over the past 8 years?
Number one is trust. Trust. One of my favorite sayings, Mike, is that trust and control cannot coexist.
Ooh, that's good. Yeah.
It cannot coexist. So often we say we trust the Lord, right? We trust God in what we're doing, and yet we're trying to control what's really happening over here. And so when that happens, it's really heavy because when that happens, we're like saying, oh, just kidding. Just kidding. I don't really trust you.
Yeah. I know for me, this is a funny story. Like maybe a little too transparent sometimes. But it was just in the past few weeks, like I was trying to control everything in my life and business and everything. And like I finally got to a point like it wasn't working out and I was like, all right, I just give up, like whatever. And it's like, God was like, oh, that's what I was waiting for. Now
exactly.
And then all this stuff started happening in a good way, That's
what happens. That's when doors open, opportunities come our way, when we recognize that we're not in control.
Right.
And that God has great plans for us, and we just have to be willing for them.
So how do you balance that simultaneously, like trusting God and not trying to be in control, right? but simultaneously, like knowing, like I don't just sit here and wait for God to do everything, right? Like
No.
He expects us to take action.
We have to
right?
take
So
action.
how do you balance that?
Ooh, there's that word balance. We talked about that earlier. Answering that question, how do we balance that? Once again, it's for me, it's knowing what I'm supposed to be doing, feeling it in my heart, what I'm supposed to be doing, and then moving forward, having that list of things to do, and doing those things, even when you don't feel like doing them. And I've had plenty of those days, trust me.
Yeah.
I think we all do, right?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about the Best You Expo, because that's super cool that you're doing that, and you said that was just something you decided to do recently, right?
Yeah, so I spoke at an event back in, it was the end of 2019. I spoke at the WLLE event, and that means Women Leaders in Law Enforcement.
Okay.
And I think you and I talked about this previously too, how you just want to, you never know where opportunities are going to come. And so how I got that speaking engagement was I had read an article in a magazine and loved the article. And so I ended up emailing the lady that wrote the article and just told her that I loved it. Well, she happened to be the chief of police for a local community. It was a couple hours from my house. And so I thought, probably never going to hear back from her. Well, within 3 hours that day, she emailed me back. And she said she appreciated my email. And so she said that she wanted, if I was ever in the area, that she wanted to meet me and we could get together. And so that day I literally opened up my calendar and I picked a day and I emailed her back and I said, I will be there that day. And she, does that work for you? And she goes, oh, that's a perfect day. So long story short, that's how I got that huge event. 1,100 women come to that event.
Okay.
Now there were
Was
probably...
that your first speaking event?
No, I've had some other speaking events in the past that I've done with my friend Tammy, that we did some financial type stuff, but it's on a small level, right? And so in my room, that particular room, there was about 500 women. Now that was a whole different atmosphere. You know, you've got law enforcement. I'm not in law enforcement. I don't necessarily know the ins and outs of all that. I tried to learn. So that was the beginning of me wanting to do that. And then of course we know COVID hit.
Yeah.
And then at the beginning of this year, I just knew that I want to be back out into our community. And where I live, I just want to connect more in the Central Valley with people. And this opportunity came my way. So here we are. I'm heading there tomorrow.
Amazing. So what is it and what are you going to present on there?
So the Best You Expo is supposed to be one of the largest personal development expos in the world. And they started in European countries. And then I will be speaking on Friday on the Be Do Have concept.
Okay.
Are you familiar? I
You
think you and I
shared
talked
that with
about
me, but let's talk for Abby and for anybody watching.
Yeah. In a nutshell, the Be Do Have concept is so often in life we think that when I have a better job, when I have a closer relationship with God, when I have a better marriage, when I have more money in the bank, whatever it is, that then I'll do and then I'll get to be. And yet I believe it's the opposite. I believe that when we wake up every morning with intention and we put God first and we are on that path that we're supposed to be on, then we will get to do and then we'll get to have. So that's it in a nutshell on that. And then on the next day, Saturday, I will be speaking on the power of the words that we speak. So much power, like we talked about.
Yeah, for sure. That's cool. So, what are your big initiatives for the year?
My goal is to just be able to, I just thought about it again this morning, is to just be in a position of receiving, just to be open to receive connection, open to receive opportunities that come my way, knowing that those opportunities lead to more opportunities.
Okay.
And relationships, like, you know, meeting you wonderful people.
Yeah.
You never know where this could lead, right?
Right.
I never knew when I read that article and sent that email that I would get to speak. And I didn't finish by saying that after that event, I actually met a financial advisor there, and he asked me that day, do you only ever speak at these events? I'm like, oh gosh, no, I've never been here before, you know? And so he then paid for me to go down to Newport Beach.
Really?
And I spoke to his team of investment advisors back in February of 2020.
Okay. Wow, that's cool.
Right
so from the
before
law
COVID.
enforcement to investment advisors.
Yes.
That's cool.
All because I read a magazine.
Yeah. And what magazine was it?
It was called Mindfulness.
Okay.
And
So it's related to your profession.
Yes, but the author, the police chief of police, had written an article on the importance of self-care and yoga for people in law enforcement. And I just thought that was so incredible.
Yeah.
Because it's so needed.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, we're big supporters of law enforcement here.
Oh, good.
So actually, we're involved with a couple organizations. So one of them is a local organization that I don't know if I had mentioned this to you or not. Children in the Front Line, and they provide counseling and like trauma, like grief counseling and stuff for frontline workers. So hospital, EMS, police, dispatch, all of those.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So I'm on the board there, and I've been involved with them for I think a couple of years now. So time goes by so fast.
It does.
So they're a really cool organization, and what they do is they provide all of that free of charge to the agencies.
Okay.
And then they don't have to report back to the agency, right? So it frees up the recipients to speak more freely, and it's been cool because there's been a lot of marriages that have been restored
nice.
and other things, because those people in those high stress jobs, and they're
yes.
carrying so much weight on their shoulders from and nobody understands. I can't talk to my wife, So that's been really cool. And then we're also involved with a division of, you probably are familiar with K-Love Radio.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So division
Every day?
Division of K-Love Radio is called Crisis Response Care.
Okay.
And so the guy, and I just talked to him earlier today, he's become a good friend of mine. He was the first pastor at K-Love. You know how they have the pastors you can call in and get support and all that stuff? He was the first one, I think 30 years ago or something. And he went out and started this other division where they do the what they call CISM. Are you familiar with the CISM?
No, I'm not.
Critical Incident Stress Management. So they train the chaplains, the first responders, and all of those people on how to peer support groups, like how to handle that stuff. So it's like they're the training side of what the Children in the Front Line is.
That's wonderful. It's so needed.
Yeah.
Because you can imagine all that they've experienced during COVID and all the changes that happened, and then riots and all the different things that took place in Los Angeles and throughout our country, and just even people in the medical field and all. There's so much stress and anxiety.
Oh, there is. So if someone's watching this and maybe dealing with some of that, what are some tools that you would could lay out there to help them?
For stress and anxiety?
Yeah.
Well, for one, I was just talking to someone about this the other day. Of course, I'm always going to refer to God, right? But
of course.
And if you're not there yet, and obviously there's other tools that you need as well that are in addition to, and some of that is, what are you focused on? Another favorite saying of mine is that what you focus on expands.
Yeah.
And so I was talking to a young woman recently who has anxiety. It's not a label, right? I don't want it to be their label. And so I was helping her to see that when you focus so much on anxiety, I have anxiety, you will have more anxiety. It's just the way it is. Whereas if you flip the switch, if you think on those things that are positive, the things that we even talk about in Philippians 4 verse 8, that if you think on those things, whatever is pure and honest, and think on that stuff, it helps you to redirect your thoughts. It helps you to calm down. A really good one, Mike, is breathing.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Learning. We have to learn how to breathe. Who knew, right? So I often teach the 5-5-7 breath, which is you breathe in for 5, hold for 5, and breathe out for 7. Yeah. And doing that, it's truly amazing that we have to literally stop and think to breathe.
Yeah, you have to teach yourself how to get out of your head when you're in those moments of stress and anxiety. It's one of the first things that I learned when I started to learn how to manage my own was breathing techniques. And I mean, the whole feel and touch things around you and looking at the colors. And you really have to learn how to just get out of your head so that you can take control over those thoughts. And it's definitely a challenge, something that takes a lot of time to, kind of master your own
Oh, it does.
thoughts.
And that's the thing I think is key, is for people to realize that none of this happens overnight, right? It's not just like a quick fix overnight, you're all better. It's going to, maybe for some, if they've been experiencing it for many, many years, it's going to take a while. And it's just that trust, allow yourself self-care, allow yourself to take a walk, allow yourself to breathe, enjoy things, listen to the birds, all the things that we don't do. We get so caught up in the day-to-day and the busyness of our life. And if we just, take a step back and breathe.
Yeah.
That was something I learned actually in college, because I only took a few semesters of college anyway, but I took one semester of I think it was an acting class or something, and they they taught us to relax, to just breathe deeply and just slow it down for a second. And so anytime I get stressed out, I do that, right?
Good.
But then the other thing you mentioned was walking, and I don't consciously I didn't connect the dots until you said that. I was like, oh, I go for walks all the time, to just I need to take a minute away
to debrief,
whether I'm here or whether I'm at home, and just okay, I'm gonna take a minute, and a lot of times I go pray or throw on some worship music, but yeah.
A breathing I recently started doing, probably about 6 months ago, was where you breathe in what you want. So if you breathe in love and kindness and joy, and breathe out what you don't want. So anger and frustration and judgment and all those things. And I've done that often.
I'm definitely going to have to try that one.
Yeah, that is
That's
cool.
the first time I've ever heard of breathing in what you want and then kind of letting go of what you don't want. That's really interesting.
That's consciously thinking of receiving and then releasing, right?
Well, I've been in some places not too long ago where maybe there's someone there that a person's had some experience with in the past that hasn't gone so well or whatever, and you can go into the situation with a negative thought, and that's not going to help anything, right? And so I was in a situation not that long ago where that was happening, even for me, and it was happening, and I thought, I don't want this to happen. And so I was breathing in love and kindness and not wanting to be judgmental, right? So I was breathing out what I didn't want. And it was amazing how much that helps.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's super cool. So, Darla.
Yes.
If someone's watching this and they want some resources for this, or they want to connect with you, where would you send them? Or
the best place I have my website, of course, which is coachdarlanelson.com. If you do /social at the end, it actually takes you to my digital card, which will then take you to all kinds of things.
Okay.
So coachdarlanelson.com /social. Okay. And that will take you.
And do you have videos and stuff out there on?
I have videos, podcast episodes. If you go to that website I just mentioned, you can gain access to my complimentary. It's a free Healthy Habits workbook.
Okay.
A lot of people get that, which then if they want to, they can. Once they've accessed that workbook, then they're welcome to join me for a 20-minute chat. Something like that.
That's cool.
So.
Yeah, let's make sure we put that resource front and center on this episode
Thank you.
too.
Thank you.
Cool. So is there anything last words or anything you want to share with the audience before we wrap up, or
any advice to anyone who's struggling with any of the audience members that
if you're struggling with stress and anxiety and you're wanting to know peace and calm in your life, like we mentioned before, just be patient with yourself, show yourself some grace. And know that it took you a while to get to where you are today. And so by giving yourself grace and allowing yourself time to say that it's going to be okay, that I am going to trust, right? I am going to trust that God will help me to get through this and to just keep moving one day at a time, not expecting miracles overnight. Sometimes we're stuck a little bit. And in order to get unstuck, we have to be patient with ourselves.
Well, I think that's a great point, Darla, you make, because a lot of times we think, oh, it's going to change overnight, right? But you didn't get there overnight.
No.
And I think, it reminds me of something that Tony Robbins says, right? It's like people underestimate what they can do in a decade and overestimate what they can do in a year. It's kind of along the same lines, right?
Right. Absolutely.
And did you know Tony's a Christian too?
I didn't know that.
I never would have known that. I listened to him on a podcast and I was like, oh, that's awesome. I love that.
That's wonderful. That's
Yeah.
great. Good to know. Yes.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Anyway, thank you for being here. It's been a
Thank
pleasure having you.
So good to meet you, Abby and Mike.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Thank you so
thank you.
much. This was a privilege. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys for watching. Hope you have a great day. God bless.
Thank you.